Hey everybody, so we are back in Stata with a real quick time series date time formatting tip here. So this is a question that comes up fairly often. When you're dealing with time series data, there are going to be times where you want to change the frequency of the observations. And we're going to look at the case here when you want to go from a higher frequency to a lower frequency. For example, from monthly data to quarterly data, from monthly to annual, weekly to monthly, etc. Well, it turns out Stata has a built-in command, the collapse command, that will do exactly what you want. It'll take, say, the average of the first 3 months of the year and turn that into the first quarter, right? So let's go ahead and grab some example data from our usual source, the Federal Reserve Economic Database. So we can use that command freduse. And let's just get one variable to worry about here, the unemployment rate. So this is going to give us US monthly observations on unemployment. And here we see goes all the way back to 1948. And the goal here is to take, right, for example, these first three observations, January, February, March, and turn that into one observation, which will be the average of those three. And that'll be the quarterly observations. We want to collapse those three into one. And then for the next quarter, three observations, turn that into one value as well. So to do this, we're going to need to create a new date variable. And again, Stata has some built-in help here for us. So let's create a new variable, call it Q date. So this will be our quarterly date, which will equal this command Q QOFD, Q of D. So that's going to be the quarterly date extracted from the original date variable, date in this case. And let's go ahead and browse that. And this doesn't look helpful at the beginning. We have a number here, negative 48, but we have to remember, right, the Stata date convention calculates the number of time periods relative to 1960, right? So quarter one, 1960, January 1960, here 1948 is 48 quarters before that. So it doesn't look like a date, but it is what we actually want, right? And you see that each of those first three observations have the same value, that 48 quarter before 1960, the next three, the same value, etc. So to make it look like a quarterly date, we can format it. We don't actually need to do this to do the collapse command, but just to make sure we feel better about what we're doing, we can format that Q date variable as a quarterly date. So it'll make it a human readable as well as Stata readable. So format the name of the variable we created, Q date %TQ, and let's browse that again. Now we're getting somewhere. 1948 quarter one for each of those first three observations. Now, let's go back and use the collapse command. So we're going to collapse the variable of interest here. If you had multiple variables, you could put them all in the same command. And basically what this command is going to do is replace the data set we have. We're going to lose all of those monthly observations, and we're just going to see those quarterly averages. So we're going to collapse unrate by our quarterly date variable. So by, in parentheses, Q date, browse yet again, and look at that. Your data has magically transformed into quarterly format. And if we bring up the little screenshot of what we had originally, if you actually do the calculation, the average of those first three is going to be what we see in our calculation here. So in fact, it does work out. So you can do a similar operation, again, depending on which frequency you start with and what frequency you want to go to. So anytime you're going to from higher frequency to lower frequency, this collapse command is going to work for you. So your situation might be a little bit different, but some version of this should work. Hopefully that was helpful, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.